Hi knitters! I wanted to set a tutorial for how to steek a thumb hole or do an afterthought thumb hole because these are some mitts I just made myself. Aren't they so cute? And you can see I've got my thumb hole here. I remembered to do it when I was supposed to do it and it's great. But if you look at this one, there is no thumb hole. I remembered I was supposed to put a thumb hole in about here, which obviously doesn't do me a lot of good. Now I could have ripped back. It's not that far, but I thought, you know, I'm gonna do this later. And it's easy to do. So I'm gonna show you how you can put that in. All you need are a few needles to hold your stitches here, and then you need a pair of scissors. If you like doing magic loop, that's perfect. That's going to work really well for this. If you have DPNs, that'll work too. The only thing that's hard to do this with is 9-inch circulars. If you have two on hand, if you work with two 9-inch circulars, that's totally going to work. But if you're used to working with one, or you've been working with one and then you try to go back and do this, that's not really going to be a technique that's going to work well. You need a little more play in your cord for that, or to have no cord at all with DPNs. So here we go. What we're going to do first is we're going to figure out where this thumb hole should go. So since these are mitts, what I could do is put it anywhere. It doesn't actually matter. If I wanted to, this thumb hole could actually be over here if I wanted it to. Now, obviously you can see this is where my beginning of round is. That's where all of my stuff happened. So I chose to have it over here, and that's how I'm going to wear them, and that's how I'm going to do this too. My beginning of round is over here, so I'm going to put it here so that it's on the edge there. I could put it here so that my beginning of rounds are both on this side, but honestly I carried my yarns to weave them in on these sides of my mitts, and so what I'm going to do is have those be where my palms will be so that there's a little more wear and durability there. So it looks like we put this in at the third row of the red stripe here, or purple stripe, depending on what you see. So we've got that going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to center that third stripe with our needles. Now it's over two stitches from the edge, right? So we want to start probably here. So I'm going to take my DPNs here. I really like these. I lost several of them, so you'll see I'm working with two different sets, but these are my favorites. I will put a link to them down below. They're very smooth. They're beautiful. Obviously the size is coming off on them, but I don't really know how they could do a better job of that unless they were like these. These are the Lika needles, and they are obviously on the metal in the middle there. But these do not snag, but they're not as smooth because of that break in the wood there. Okay, so we're going to work over, and then this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I know that I picked up stitches actually along this way on both sides. So I'm going to pick up 6 stitches, right? So we've got 2 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to pick up the right leg of each stitch here, just for those 6 stitches. And the reason I'm not going right into that third row, I'm going below it, because I'm also going above it, because the third row is actually what we're going to cut into to make sure we're at the right place. So then we're going to do 6 up here. Oh, and that might happen. You might lose a stitch every once in a while, but that's okay. And there we go. So we've got those on hold there. And then I am going to clip one of these. Obviously there's 2 middle stitches, but I'm going to be clipping one of these here so that we can get that pulled apart. All right, and I've got my little scissors here. I've had these since high school. I think I got them at a reenactment fair back when my family and I were doing Civil War reenactments together, and you just need to do one stitch. Don't go ahead and like clip every stitch. You actually want just one, because this is going to be similar to an afterthought heel where you're just going to be unraveling this row of stitches so that you can weave this end back in as you go. Now I'm going to leave this end still inside that stitch because I want it to be even more secure. And then we're going to take, for some reason I can only work this direction when I'm doing this, so I'm going to take this here, and you can see one of my ends that I wove in is right there. That's okay, we can put him back in at some point. So you can weave these in later, you can weave them in as you're going along, but obviously what I'm going to do there is I'm going to leave the, and then we'll just tuck that sucker back in after we're done doing what we're going to do. Okay, so you can see you've got your couple of strings here, your ends here. These two are just ends that I've already knit in. So I'm just going to tuck them in and deal with those later. If I feel like they need to be woven in more, I will. If not, I'll probably just clip them a little closer. And then with these, I'm probably going to knit these in. You can weave them in, that's fine, but I'll probably knit them in as I go around. And then I'm going to knit these stitches and then just pull it really tight and knit these stitches. And what I will do first is transfer, because obviously I can't be knitting around on just 2 DPNs. This is not really going to work. That is how DPNs are done. And so I am usually holding the 4th DPN person. So what I'm going to do is just have my 12 stitches in 3 groups of 4. Now, there's the thumb hole. You can knit it all around, do your ribbing, finish off, and then weave in your ends. And that's how you steek or do an afterthought thumb hole for your mittens. Okay, so there we have it. We have our mitts, we have our cast off here. I went ahead and wove in that end and cut it off, but then of course we've got some ends to deal with in here. Let's pop this out. And around here, I really like using these. I got them off Amazon for little ends like this. These are just harder to manage with a regular tapestry needle, and what's nice about these is it has this huge eye on it, so you can even just pull it open and get that yarn in there. And then what you can do is you can thread your what is that caught in my mitt? I think it's a little piece of a leaf. You can take your end and weave it in, but then as soon as you weave it in, you can take your needle and then you can just use this end. You can go back through, even though it's such a small tail, and one of the ends actually has little bitty teeth on it, so that end is harder to get through. and another end is smooth. So then there you go. It's really easy to use on these itty bitty ends. And I like to stretch it out a little bit so that when I block it, I'm not losing a bunch of material in the end. And then I leave just a little bit of something there so that when it blocks out and everything shifts, I don't lose my tail there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the other ones, and that is how we do an afterthought thumb for a mitten.